What's going on, everyone? This is your man, Uncle Ed, and welcome to the Crypto Hicks. In today's show, we have two special guests here on the Crypto Hicks. I'm here with Clark and Philip from Base. How you fellas doing today?
Hey, doing great. How you doing?
We are phenomenal. So, before I jump into the questions, people dying to hear, I like to do a mental check on everybody. It's been hard times for everyone. They're doing this pandemic after the pandemic. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, where you at mentally? 1 being, I'm bad, 10, I'm phenomenal.
Well, me, I'm always pretty optimistic. If you watch me on anything else, look for the bright side of things, looking for those opportunities. When the market's down, that's when some of the biggest opportunities come around. So, if you get into too bad of a mindset, then you're not gonna see them. So, yeah, that's just how I like to do it.
All right.
I'd like to say I do most things in life with a sense of cautious optimism.
All right. So for people out there that want to know, what is BASIC? What does it stand for? What is your guys' mission?
All right. So BASIC, the Blockchain Security Industry Coalition, is as it currently stands right now the only just mining trade association in that covers North America. We're a young, small organization. We started up about 5 months ago, mostly in the wake of the attack on proof of work that's been going on in New York State. But since then, we've expanded, and we're doing advocating for those who secure the blockchain in all across North America. So that's Canada, United States, and we might be branching out even a little bit further than that, depending on where things go. Bill, if you wanna talk a little more about what we've been up to.
I also work for Crypto Caverns. I'm marketing director there, and we essentially got a facility here in New York, up in upstate in Plattsburgh, also around the spring. And when we got here, there was an organization known as BCMA. I think it's the Blockchain Mining Association, if I might be getting that right. But it was essentially defunct. It was supposed to represent miners' interests politically, as any trade organization would. And they had not really done anything in a while. And so we went to kind of revive it. And this is, I guess, almost this, BASIC is the spiritual successor, I guess you might say to that. And we've got some of the former members of that on board, the ones that still wanted to be active and try to represent the industry. Kaboom Rex is on board. XBTO is on board. Jordan Samuelitis is our chair. Rufus Wright, our CEO, is also he's chairman actually. And so yeah, we were trying to get things started. Mark here had been already in politics prior to this and had a lot of experience. The moratorium in New York was just kind of the first battle that was there on deck. We saw that as a problem. Didn't want that to become a nationwide movement, so to speak, of banning crypto mining. So we got involved, right? That's what you're supposed to do in politics, and here we are.
So, what made you guys get involved with crypto? I understand, like you said, only this has been around for 5 months. Prior to that, was y'all always involved in crypto, like mining or buying and trading?
Well, personally, a little less than I would have liked. I must have been about 15. I was begging my parents to because I couldn't make an account, begging some parents to turn my money into Bitcoin on Mount Gox. That must have a decade ago, or I don't even know, so ages ago. With like $20 I had, they thought I was completely unhinged. I back then I was 15, so I broke it as a joke. I was hitting Bitcoin faucets, storing them on an old Android phone as my wallet. So aware of the the crypto space for a long time, but I was never a miner myself. And well, actually that's changed, because now I do have my first GPU. It's actually being hosted up in Plattsburgh, so that's something right there. But personally, I was never actually a miner, so this is getting into the world of mining and into the world of the people who are really building the infrastructure over the course of the past year or so. It's probably been one of the most fascinating things I have ever experienced. And the more I learn, the more I realize how much good can come from mining when it comes to benefiting communities, benefiting the nation, right? Phil, you have a long and storied history in the world of crypto, so you're something of an OG. So take it away.
Maybe a little bit. I got started in 2011, just reading about it randomly on Reddit, and I was like, oh, well, what is that? Just let Bitcoin. Let me Google that, and started reading. Everything I read just left me with more questions. And 3 days later, I had finally wrapped my head around. It was the proof of work, and mining and what it does for a blockchain and how it moves a blockchain forward. And when I got that, I'm like, oh, this is the future. This has to be. This is the sort of thing that becomes the future, whether people like it or not. So I've been involved ever since. I'm a big fan of the technology, and I started mining with my graphics card. I didn't follow it into the professional thing. I got more into the trading space after that. Luckily, Rufus, our CEO, got right into the large scale professional mining. It's I don't know, been a labor of love. What can I say?
You mentioned benefits. What benefits do you see crypto mining for the environment and for the people in the United States or New York?
Go ahead, Phil. I was just going to say, quickie for the environment. I mean, that's simple, right? Like, this is something that I hear in Albany and wherever I go all the time, especially when I'm talking to certain political factions, right? Mining is good because people have these, right? People these days, legislators, they'll be setting these carbon emission goals, or goals like we want to get everyone in electric cars within 50 years. We want to go full electric, right? Where is the grid? Where is the infrastructure? How are you going to build that infrastructure to support all of that? Because right now we don't have it. So there's two things that you can do. Basically, you can offset it onto the taxpayer. You can print more money or whatever, something like that, or you can turn to people who are already ready and willing to build out this infrastructure, and make good relationships with communities, and that's miners, right? Like, if you want an infrastructure built out that will support all of this green shift, right? You are going to need people to build it. And I think that I've known plenty of miners who are more than willing to step in and contribute in that regard. Bill, if you want to just expand on some of the other benefits, there are plenty.
Yeah, just to expand on that, you see the headlines right now in California, where they're warning about blackouts and having other energy problems, things like that, they're trying to get the demand down. And actually, we were approached by a company doing what's called demand response. And some people might be familiar with this concept. They might have, where I live, there's a voluntary program. The power company will put a little box on your air, and what it does is it lets them flip off that air conditioner when they're having an unexpected surge in demand, right? Because it's not so quick to just snap your fingers and turn on another generator like that. It's hard to turn it on. They can can turn off those air conditioners really quick. So that saves them a lot of trouble, a lot of expenses, potentially a lot of repairs and damage, to be able to do that. And what crypto mining is for that, essentially, it works as a giant battery. And batteries have always been the problem when you want to work with renewables, because everybody knows, renewables aren't as consistent as fossil fuels are. So you got to do one of two things. You either got to have a bunch of batteries, or you need to overbuild. You need to build way more renewables than you need most of the day just to satisfy that one peak time. And what crypto mining provides through this demand response is essentially both. They treat us like a giant battery. We're on all day, and we're providing that demand for that overbuild to stay online. And then when there's a problem, there's a heat wave, something like that, going forward, we're probably going to need to, build mechanisms to deal with these things, not just attempt to combat it, but, also live with it a little bit, I think, whether we want to or not. And we got approached like, hey, how fast can you get that equipment offline? And we were able to do it in less than 30 seconds, which is the highest tier of response that they want. So they love that we exist, and we facilitate that that existence of it. We're all hydro, 100% hydro. On top of that, we also offset through a on-chain DAO named Klima DAO that retires carbon credits, not just buys the carbon credits, but actually retires the carbon credits, which is what you have to do to really offset the carbon. And we're doing that off of our profits, and it's actually pretty cheap and easy for us to do because we operate in a remote location. We're using all renewable power, and compare that to the banking system, right? They've got to operate downtown where the people are in huge buildings with a lot of heat. So there it is. Like, I'm sure they can offset too. They probably have a lot of money. I'm not sure if they could do it as cheaply as we can do it for the long term. There it is.
All right. Before I jump into my next question, you did mention power. Do you think the United States have the infrastructure power-wise to keep supporting crypto mining?
Sure. Well, that's the great thing about this country is if we don't have it, we'll get it, right? If there's a demand for something, we're going to build that out. That's how the free market's supposed to work, and that's exactly the mechanism that's already working, right? We want to build our facility out, like any business, we want to grow, and we need bigger and better power lines to do it. We need more transformer equipment. And we'll need to keep those the hydro stations. Like currently, they have excess capacity, so they're happy where we're at for sure. But
all right. So, what made you get into the political side?
Wow. Well, I don't even know where to begin. I've always been around politics, right? Like, I used to bike to school when I was young, like 8, 9 years old, and there were no bike lanes. I would bike across the park in Manhattan, bike to the Upper West Side. I think when I first got into politics, I was about 9, 10 years old. I started testifying at community boards, saying, hey, please build a bike lane. And of course it was very effective, get a little kid up there. So, and I go there and I occasionally get heckled, but mostly applauded. And I think, super local levels where I started out, New York City community boards. But I would say that my first serious political involvement was during the last New York City mayoral cycle. It was the Andrew Yang campaign, actually. So it was a very interesting experience, even though he was very clearly not a New York City politics guy. the idea of, I guess, like making new reasons for people, for industry to come to a place like New York City, or it's New York City's like totally red taped up, super high barriers to entry in every way imaginable, and it's dominated by these legacy industries that have effectively been grandfathered in, right? So, when I see a place like New York City, I see, limitless potential. But it's potential that's being held back by politics, and, it's being held back by old, impossible to modify laws. And, it's very rare that these old laws ever get reconsidered. Instead, what happens is new laws just get piled on top and piled on top and piled on top, right? So, despite New York City being, I would say, one of the most entrepreneurial cities on the planet, the government here is not on the same page. And I'd say that a particularly extreme example of this disconnect is something like the COVID shutdown, where half of small business was closed in a totally top-down way without any city or state money being meaningfully provided to the businesses that were forced to shut down, right? So this is a good illustration of New York City politics and a lot of New York State politics as well. But just to zoom back out, I really don't think that this is a New York City or even a New York State problem. I think that in far too much of the United States, the proper incentives for innovation, for building infrastructure, for welcoming in new industries, the incentives simply aren't there. In fact, what you get a lot of the time is disincentives, right? And that looks like something like the proof of work moratorium that's being pushed in Albany. So I guess that's my story with politics.
So do you think that because New York State and New York City comes from old money, and when you try to build a new infrastructure that they can't get a piece of, you think you're not going to push back?
Well, what I have been wondering, right, is I'm not here to name any names, but I think that I think that there is something of a tacit alliance between some of the alleged progressive, alleged environmentalists, and the some of these big legacy industries, and no one, everyone's a little afraid of a new kid on the block, especially world of crypto. Things move fast, right? It's very different. It's scary. I mean, you can look at
sorry, it's just reminding me so much. I'm not quite as young as Clark is, and when I was growing up, I watched the politicians debate, all day about the internet, what to do about the internet, and how they're going to legislate and regulate the wild west of the internet. And a lot of cringy things were said, maybe. And so a big thing that Basic's a part of is education, not just for the general population, but policymakers. Basic's efforts primarily are focused on talking to policymakers directly rather than like staging a protest or something like that. We just want to make sure they have the information that they need to make the right decision. Right. So, if you're a policymaker out there that wants to know more about blockchain, come talk to Basic. We'll be glad to tell you. Otherwise, this is my first foray into politics at all, so it's a wild ride.
I understand. These politicians can take you for a loop, and somebody take you for that loop.
Yeah, some of the things I've heard in Albany are just truly boggle the mind, right? So it's like talk to someone who's really involved in the moratorium. He let's just say he's involved with high up in a committee that's called let's just say it's one of the technology and internet based committees, right? And this particular legislator said, well, the reason why we need to ban proof of work is because if we ban it, greater minds than you or I will come up with a better, a new way that's just as secure and just as safe as proof of work, but it won't use any of the energy. And so we need to ban things in order to create new innovation, and that's how we're going to spur innovation is by banning technologies. So just to yeah, no, I have had some very interesting experiences talking to legislators about this stuff. Really wild stuff.
I may know that legislator. You may talk after that. You may drop that name. I may know.
You just might.
So, what changes do you want to see made in legislation for crypto?
Oh wow. Well, I'll start off, and then Phil, you can take over. I'd say. I mean, where do I begin? I mean, ignoring what I want to see, like let's say what we're doing is basic, right? So we are focusing, I'd say, first and foremost on fighting to defend proof of work mining, fighting to defend blockchain infrastructure creators, right? The storm clouds are gathering, and they have been for a while, and lightning's starting to strike, and right now we're seeing what looks like the nascent stage of the swell of the wave of a huge push of some of the most well-funded environmental organizations and certain political factions they're pushing to completely ban mining in the states altogether. I think that's the goal. New York's a bellwether state, right? If the anti-mining folks see that they can pass Kellis-Parker, which is the moratorium bill, the proof of work moratorium in New York State, I'd say expect to see many, many more state and local level pushes against crypto mining down the line, especially in blue states. As Anna Kellis, who is the assembly sponsor of the bill, as she says herself, you can look up the clip. It's on our Twitter at blockchainbsic. The real long-term goal is banning proof of work. And why do they want to ban proof of work? Because as she says herself, even with hydro, right? Even if there was a mine that was 100% hydropowered or powered by another green energy, right? It wouldn't matter because it's a lot of these legislators view it in a zero-sum way. As Anna Kellis says, the energy would be better off used for something else. So I'd say that our main sort of raison d'etre is preparing ourselves to fight back against this huge push that will be coming and will be getting bigger and bigger and bigger unless something is done. We're also working on legislation in New York State to get private keys recognized as legal property. Obviously, that's important, as well as pushing a general study task force bill around blockchain technology. But I'd say that study bill. Phil, you want to talk a little more about some of the changes we want to see nationwide.
That study bill is great. Mostly because all right. So I would say what we would want to see is good information out there for one thing, and then also just to be treated fairly as an industry. Because who is Anna Kellis to say what the power should and shouldn't be used for? Is she an expert on all of the things that power can be used for, or does she just like to sound good? At one point, I'm sure there were a lot of people who were saying that all of these gas stations popping up were a waste for where you could have had a perfectly good feeding post for your horses, right? And the fact of the matter is the new technology was being used because it's better and it scales better, provides more benefit. We've already gone over some of the benefits in this podcast, and there's a real possibility of losing something that would be very valuable to New Yorkers and humanity. this goes this way. And when, well, really, you wouldn't lose it. You would just lose it here, because, you know, this technology is happening no matter what. It's, you can't put the genie back in the bottle with blockchain. So you can either, you know, deal with that fact and try to incorporate it the best you can and to your advantage, the best that you can, or you let somebody else do that, you know, because that's the way the world works. And so, just on the fairness point, you know, there's other competing industries that use this power too, and government's not supposed to play favorites on that. Right, so
you know that not supposed to play favorites.
Yeah, not supposed to.
So yeah, I mentioned proof of work. What's your views on proof of stake? The reason I bring up proof of stake, you know, the upcoming merger with Ethereum, you know, we're not giving financial advice here. Do you see Ethereum value gonna go up or down?
I'll handle this one.
I'm not even gonna say anything. All right, I love everyone. You know.
I mean, I've got this server on my floor, so I mean, I think I'm kind of the techie, like, and you know, people have been asking me, and I've been telling them really anything can happen. Like, honestly, the only similar event to this we've had in crypto on a contentious fork on a major chain was the Bitcoin Cash fork a few years ago on Bitcoin. And you know, we went to the moon under that narrative, which was essentially the biggest existential threat that Bitcoin's ever had. And you know, they've tested it a lot. You know, but nobody really knows what's going to happen. And, you know, I'm sure they'll fix it if something breaks, but there's probably going to be there's all sorts of incentive to make all sorts of things happen, right? Like, powerful players in the market want to make it look one way versus the other. And so, you know, if there was ever a time to play it safe, this is not financial advice, but I think playing it safe is always a good way to be. As far as the proof of stake versus proof of work goes, I think even a lot of people on the Ethereum team recognize it as a trade-off in security. Got a graphic on their website about the scaling trilemma. You know, there's trade-offs that you have to make in engineering. It's just the facts of living in reality. And you know, they think the trade-off they're making is a good trade to make. Other people disagree. I would certainly think that proof of work is a good thing to keep around. Maybe I'm a little biased, but they're certainly not the only blockchain out there. They've been the most popular one recently, but you know, we'll see if that continues after this. Yeah, I think personally they're giving away a little bit of what gives them a competitive edge versus some of these other blockchains out there like AVAX and Matic. So maybe we'll see how much of the market wants to continue on a proof of work chain again.
All right. I know time is winding down. We have to do a part two. We got to do it live. You know, we won't have these time constrictions on us. You got to come up here before we end this. Where everyone can find you, what's your social medias, where people can sign up to Basic. Let them out there.
All right. So you can find us at blockchainbasic.org. You can follow us on Twitter at blockchainbsic, at blockchainbsic. So just to tell you a little bit more about that, here's a bit about just a little rundown of our org, a little more. Again, right now we're the only just mining trade association that covers North America. You know, we're a young and small org. You know, we have no marketing, no social media team. Every cent that we receive goes directly towards classic shoe leather lobbying, that personal connections, because that's what works, right? Politics is a game of paying dues. I've seen a lot of people from the blockchain world attempt to lobby, and one of the things that a lot of them are missing is, some guy who, the lobbyist, right? Some guy who, the right lobbyist, some guy who, knows every, politician, knows when her kids' birthdays are, knows when and where they go to use the restroom so they can flag them down, where they last went on vacation. It doesn't matter how much Twitter clout or money or marketing people that you have to these politicians. What matters is connections, relationships. Have you paid dues? Do you have that? Do you have that in? Right. So despite the fact we've only been around for 5 months, we've already been covered in the Wall Street Journal, New York State Focus, which is a policy mag. We were written up in CoinDesk, interviewed for CoinDesk's split the state Senate Democrats in a way that you almost never see. Right. They like to vote as a group, but we were able to split them, and in a way that you don't see very much at all. We've been working closely with Assemblyman Clyde Vannell to pass the Sanders-Vannell Study Task Force bill, which passed near unanimously with one vote against from Jabari Brisport. And basically, what this says is it goes directly. This Vannell Sanders goes against Kellis Parker, because Kellis Parker says moratorium on all behind the meter proof of work mining, and Vannell Sanders says, let's study this new technology. Let's get a team of people, right? Get a task force, and that can include environmentalists, that can include people who represent government and regulatory interests, and that can include miners and blockchain infrastructure creators, right? So get everyone to come to the table and discuss to see what's best for constituent and what's best for the state, right? As opposed to just going in guns blazing and shutting the door on nascent industry, right? So obviously Kellis Parker and Vannell Sanders, they contradict each other. So what we're going to see most likely is the two bills are going to go into reconciliation before they and if it gets past that, then one or the other will go to Hochul's desk. So we do classic shoe leather lobbying and education. It's it's a battle for hearts and minds, right? And it's not just that; it's a battle for hearts and minds of politicians, which can be tricky. So what we're trying to do is we're doing our lobbying, but I think we're also focusing a fair amount on education and really what I'd like to describe as normalization, right? Because what Kellis Parker is trying to do, it's incrementally trying to bite away at and delegitimize all proof of work, anything, right? And so the way that they start out is by singling out one industry. There's only one other industry in New York State that has been so intensely singled out in the same way. Only one, and that's fracking, right? So what we want to do is we want to show how miners can benefit communities, show how they can help achieve carbon or environmental goals rather than hinder them, and benefits for constituents. Exactly. We don't want to get singled out like fracking. What we want is to normalize the industry and show that there are so many benefits. Think of the jobs, think of the infrastructure, even something like providing heat, right? Like there's a million positives, and basically what we're just trying to do is get to a lot of these politicians before the wrong people get to them and explain how the technology actually works and what's actually going on here. So mining is New York State is actually I believe as it currently stands 19% of all mining is done in New York State, and New York State is and that's more than any other state, if I recall correctly. And so if you want to help us If you want to help us fight back against anti-mining, anti-proof of work legislation, regulation across North America, US and Canada, I highly recommend you go to blockchainbasic.org, blockchainbasic.org/register. There you can register and contribute. We take Ethereum, we take Bitcoin, we take PayPal. Soon we'll be taking even more than that. And every single cent is going to go towards our lobbying and education program. No one in the org takes a salary. As I said earlier, no marketing team, no bureaucracy here. We are simply about achieving results. And I think that we have done a very good job of that in Albany. And now we're going to take this fight nationwide and continent. And any support that you'd be willing to give us, even if you want to throw us, $5-10, it is all going to go directly to our effort to make sure that there's a secure future for those who secure the blockchain. So thank you so much, Anthony. What a pleasure. I hope to do another sometime soon. This has been a great interview.
Yes, everyone. This is the Crypto Fix. I'm your host, Uncle Ant. Thanks to Clark, Phillip from Basic. We are out.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.